Hey guys, so some new stuff has happened in the world of like post-base roster DLC speculation, whatever we want to call this new era of speculating over the DLC characters. Pretty much Senjo Gahara Hitagi has been talking a bunch. He went over on Reddit and made a big thread about a bunch of stuff, just answering a lot of questions, mostly about DLC stuff for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And Vergeben has been backing Hitagi. Vergeben said that we should be listening to Hitagi, that a lot of the sources that Hitagi has and Vergeben has line up together, and they often share info and stuff. So yeah, I mean, with Vergeben backing the guy, Vergeben was right basically the whole time with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So it's really important we pay attention to Hitagi now that Vergeben is saying, you know, that he's another credible leaker. So Hitagi in the past has leaked the new Samurai Showdown game very correctly, and also leaked stuff about the Switch, like the Model 2 of the Switch, that's kind of been floating around. People have been talking about that, and Hitagi was one of the first people to mention that that was going to be like a thing that's probably going to happen by the end of next year here. So Hitagi has some credibility because of that, and of course Vergeben backing him. As for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Hitagi basically said that Steve was in the game, and then kind of backtracked on that and just said, you know, oh, it's Minecraft content. For sure Minecraft content will be in the game, which is what Vergeben was saying, Minecraft content. And then Hitagi also said that Psy Games and Nintendo did some sort of negotiations for a Grand Blue character being in Smash. He specifically mentioned Catalina, but then also kind of backtracked that and said, you know, he wasn't sure how the negotiations went or not. So those are pretty much the two big things he's been saying as far as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate goes for DLC. He also agrees with Vergeben on that there's going to be a Square Enix character of some kind. So yeah, I mean, Hitagi said a bunch more specific stuff now, so I'm going to read a bunch of his posts. So he starts the whole Reddit post off by saying, BTW, questions like, have you heard insert character getting in Smash is almost 100% a no. Every time it's been asked, I have always answered no. No one has ever asked me a correct character yet. So that's interesting that no one's ever asked him a correct character yet. It also seems to imply that he does know which characters are DLC for sure, which is, I don't know, unlikely to me that you would definitely know, at least all five. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's why he starts off this. Then he goes on to say, effing hell, I swear to God, if another YouTube video pops up because of this thread, you people need to get a life. LOL. No, but honestly, he actually goes on and mentions me by name in regards to my sources, Microsoft source, talking about Banjo. So yeah, I feel like I get a little bit of a pass here because I really do want to respond to that because people have been asking me, you know, how do I feel about that? He's basically kind of backtracked his backtrack and is now saying he does think Steve is for sure and that Steve is going to be our Microsoft character. So he wants to know, you know, how sure I am about Banjo, or you know what he says to double check my source about Banjo and stuff like that. So I'm going to again read down a bunch of his posts, but when I get to that, I'll give you my response for that. So here we go. I'll just jump right in with the Microsoft stuff and what he's been saying about Minecraft. Someone asked him, well, I'll be honest with you. I also follow you since you said that Steve will be playable in Smash. I do not know if you are still affirm that it will be playable, but I have my hopes in you. He says, get excited, my dude, because I have faith in you and your sources. Fingers crossed for Steve. Get excited, my dudes. Yes, please. So, yeah, I mean, he seems pretty confident about Steve being in the game, for sure. So then someone asked him about Banjo specifically, and this is where I come up. He responded with, to be honest, nothing. Banjo is looking grim. And to be honest, he never really had a good chance to begin with. Then someone said, a source from PapaGenos said there will be banjo-kazooie in Smash. I pray God for it to be true. If Minecraft really joined Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I would have a hard time believing that Nintendo does not enjoy Banjo-Kazooie at the same time for Joins 2. One of the games that made the success of the N64, I would have even more trouble believing if the rumor about the N64 Mini and the return of Banjo-Kazooie is true. Kind of broken English there, but then Hitagi responds with, all I will say is that PapaGenos really needs to fact check. If he has info, he should really be checking the source itself rather than screenshots and third-party sources. And he's not even one of the worst of the leaked info kind of YouTubers. Well, thanks for thinking I'm not one of the worst kind of leaked info YouTubers, so I am actually happy you said that. Then someone else responds with, hey, is the comment about a bad chance to begin with based on opinion or something you heard? And Hitagi responds, more like people are really stretching for their dreams to come true. As far as I know, he was never a character choice. Now, I find it really unlikely that Hitagi would actually know what characters were choices. That seems information that only a very select few would be privy to, like Sakurai, some very higher up Nintendo people, and very higher up Microsoft people. So I find that a little suspect. So people have been asking me, to respond to this, and I have to say, I must concede, I really do not have as much faith in my source's Microsoft source that I've seen no proof of, and I've been really clear about that the whole time. I've seen no proof of Banjo, as Hitagi seems to have confidence in Steve from Minecraft getting in the game as DLC. I made a post about this on Smashboard, so I'm just going to read that post, as I think it pretty much sums up everything really well. So someone on Smashboards asked me about this, and this is my response. I said, yeah, I read everything he's been saying recently. I've been as transparent as possible with what I've heard, but I'll go over it again in this context. There's a chain of info going on. I have a source, who I trust based on who they are, who has a Microsoft source, who said they were sure of Banjo. The Microsoft source also got tricked by the Grinch leak, though they were confused why there was no Incineroar. I have never interacted with the Microsoft source, and I've never seen proof of anything. I only trust my source isn't lying to me. Again, based on who they are, their credentials, etc., they would not do that. They are simply trying to get info they heard out there. However, so far, the Microsoft source has yet to get anything right. Though they always said they only knew about Banjo for sure, even when they were assuming the Grinch leak was real. So that's everything I got. I am not as certain about Banjo as Hitagi seems to be certain of Steve. I wish I could be, but again, all I have is a chain of info, no proof of anything at all. I will say I find Hitagi's claim of knowing what the choices were to be very suspicious. As Hitagi said, Banjo wasn't even a choice. That's the sort of thing I don't think anyone would actually have specific info on. That said, though, I cannot back Banjo the way Hitagi is backing Steve. I only have heard Banjo from someone I think is trustable, but the info is coming from someone I've never interacted with and has gotten nothing right as far as I've seen. So make your own conclusions on all of that. I'm just getting the info out there that I've heard, but I am not remotely confident enough in it to challenge someone else's inside info. The best I can do is be clearer and less cryptic than most leakers about what exactly I've heard. Someone then asked me if I could reach out to my source and try to get an update from their Microsoft source, and my response was, they are just given info from their Microsoft source. Have to be a bit vague here, sorry. So they will not get any new info from me asking. Again, I sadly have to concede that Hitagi seems way more certain than anything I have heard from my source. Though I'm wary that Hitagi is so certain of seemingly every detail surrounding the DLC characters. I'm far more inclined to believe Vergeben's a Square rep, but not sure which one, has heard several, and Minecraft content, but unsure if a playable character or what. That sort of info seems more likely than Hitagi implying that he knows which characters were the choices Sakurai was given from Nintendo to choose for DLC. Hitagi didn't say that outright, but it seems to be implied that he's privy to such info by saying Banjo wasn't even a choice. So again, make your own assessment here. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. Again, I do trust my source based on who they are. I do think that they are, being honest with me. I think they're not lying to me, but I've never interacted with their Microsoft source, so I have no idea if the information they're giving me is actually real or not. I've seen no proof of anything. I really can't go up against someone else who seems to be saying for sure Steve is going to be playable. I will say that my information aside, however, there are some things that point to Banjo at least being talked about, again, as a choice or something. Hitagi seems to be saying that Banjo wasn't even, a possibility, but with Phil Spencer saying he'd be okay with Banjo, tweeting about that about a year ago, having an N64 Classic Edition probably in the works, and something that I feel like Nintendo would be very aware of how many rare games would work really well on that, Banjo-Kazooie being one of them, Banjo being a skin within Minecraft if Minecraft talks come up, and Banjo getting their copyright renewed back in September. It just feels really odd to me that Banjo-Kazooie wouldn't even come up, or wouldn't even be, again, a choice as Hitagi puts it, or that Hitagi would even be aware of whether or not Banjo was a choice, is really suspicious to me. So while I do kind of trust Hitagi here, I do think, Vergeben's backing him. If he's so sure about Minecraft content, and again, Vergeben was saying Minecraft content, if Hitagi's saying Steve is definitely playable, I do think there's probably something here, but to be so specific about Banjo and totally writing him off, I can't fully trust that piece of it. And again, I do still trust my source. I don't know if their Microsoft source is right or not. I don't know if their Microsoft source just knew Nintendo came to Microsoft and assumed Banjo. I have no idea. I don't know anything except that they were supposedly sure of Banjo. But I do think there's some other things going for Banjo, so to completely write him off the way Hitagi is, I don't know. Again, make your own assessment on this one, but that's all the information I can give you, which is always what I'm all about, getting as much information out to you guys to make your own conclusions as possible. So to go down some more posts from Hitagi here, someone asked him, heard anything about other Western characters besides Steve? Don't have to name names, of course, just most of the characters, besides Banjo, people are asking about are Japanese third parties. Hitagi responds with, nothing I can say right now, which kind of implies that maybe he does know about another Western character, but he doesn't want to talk about it right yet. Hitagi starts talking about Catalina again from Grand Blue. So someone asked him, I'm guessing a lot of people are following you now after the Smash DLC news of Nintendo choosing the characters and you saying that Steve will be a fighter and Catalina potentially being a fighter. Has your source ever been in contact with you over Catalina, Grand Blue, and Smash at all since a month ago? Or is your stance still her noting currently being in the negotiation, probably dying? Hitagi says, yeah, a lot of people have been hitting me up recently about that news. Various YouTubers or people who claim to be a YouTuber wanting to do like a discussion on it, but I'm probably not going to. As far as Catalina, I haven't really been on top of keeping up with it, but as far as I remember, things were looking good, so we'll see. Just to be clear, I've never tried to talk to Hitagi or Vergeben or anybody like this, so I don't know who the YouTubers are who are talking to him, or if somebody claimed to be me, because he did mention me by name earlier, so I don't know. But yeah, no, I've never actually reached out to him. And then this does seem to say that he thinks negotiations went well, so kind of saying that, he does think Catalina probably will be one of these DLC characters. So then the person who's talking to him says, interesting, because your last comment on it was looking like it wasn't happening, which caused Vergeben to comment saying it probably isn't a few days ago. I wonder if there were any new developments on it. Hitagi then responds with, I actually don't know if Catalina is in or not, but things seem to be good with negotiations. So again, he's not sure if she's in or not, but yeah, I don't know where the whole thing about the negotiations probably going poorly came from, but Hitagi's saying they probably went well, which would point to her probably being a DLC character. So throughout this whole Reddit thing, Hitagi starts talking about a bunch of characters. People do start asking, insert character name, are they in or not? Which Hitagi said he didn't really want people to do, but that's what they do. And mostly he says he hasn't heard of anyone. But I'm going to read down a bunch of them. He does start talking about Square characters. Specifically, he does talk about Geno and says he hasn't heard anything. Though Vergeben said he heard 7 different names, so Hitagi not hearing about Geno doesn't necessarily mean Geno isn't in. He doesn't seem to be totally 100% on a Square character. Though I will say, with Vergeben saying 7 different names, I don't know if that was a hint at Legend of the Seven Stars. That's probably me reaching way too much, but I'm just going to read a bunch of these characters Hitagi kind of just commented on. Someone asked him if you heard about Paper Mario. He says, nope, never was ever suggested as an actual character to my knowledge. Again, seeming to know which characters were suggested, which just seems like information I don't think he would actually be able to have. Then someone says, I know you said that insert character and Smash things are usually no's, but I gotta know, any hint on Geno? Hitagi says, zilch. So yeah, he hasn't heard of Geno. Then someone asks him anything about Bandana Waddle Dee or any Kirby characters. He says, nothing. Someone asked him about Lloyd and Zack Fair. I assume Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia. He says, not to my knowledge. Nothing on Dixie Kong, I assume someone asked. He says, zilch. Many people don't think we're getting a second Final Fantasy character, but have you heard anything about a second Final Fantasy character like Tara Branford or Bartz? Hitagi says, nothing. So, again, we're getting into a bunch of Square Enix characters here. Have you heard anything at all about Sora? Hitagi says, zilch. I've been watching the Smash leaks ever since E3 reveal and was wondering what you think about Leaky Panda and their claim that a Dragon Quest character will be revealed at the Video Game Awards. Have you heard anything about Dragon Quest characters as the Square Enix rep? So this is interesting. Hitagi actually says, I have heard about Dragon Quest characters, but can't confirm if it's true or not. So apparently out of the Square characters Hitagi has heard, he has heard Dragon Quest characters. Someone asks, any implications that you can reveal towards Lara Croft? He says, where the F do you people get these ideas? And then they respond with, or someone responds with, to be fair, she's one of the only big Square characters that are left after all the ones you seemingly deconfirmed. He says, I didn't disconfirm any Square reps, though I said I couldn't say right now. So, I don't know. Hitagi seems to be a little strange about stuff, because he seems to say no to stuff, and definitely not, and definitely yes, but then kind of comes back with, could be or not. Catalina's a maybe, but negotiations seem to be good, and these Square characters are no, haven't heard anything, no. Then has heard a Dragon Quest character, and then when someone says, well, Lara Croft is a Square Enix character, he seems a little unsure about that. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. So then more on Square Enix stuff. Somebody specifically asked him if Vergeben and him share a source for the Square Enix rep. Hitagi says there's hints, but like I said, it could be false info. Then someone says, yeah, it seems like that's lining up with what Vergeben said about the topic of Square Enix. Insider knowledge aside, do you personally think Sora from Kingdom Hearts counts only as Disney, or does he also count as Square? Hitagi says technically both, but Disney has more control over him, and Square in Kingdom Hearts, Square develops it. Again, I don't know if that is something someone could definitely know. I mean, who has more control over the character? I don't know. Someone asks, they're curious about the Square Enix characters, very big characters from companies like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Nair, Dragon Quest, that kind of stuff, like a mix of big names and obscure old, obviously fake ones. Without naming one, of course, just your thoughts on that so-called list and opinion. A good reason to be hyped no matter what is announced. And Hitagi says, you will definitely be familiar with the character if any of the supposed characters are true. So, I mean, he only really said that Dragon Quest was one he heard. Pretty much all the other big Square characters were asked about, and he said no. The only one I can think of that wasn't asked about was Chrono from, like, Chrono Trigger, which would be amazing. He'd probably be my second best choice as far as a Square character if I can't get Geno. So I feel like the only characters that seem to survive Hitagi here are a Dragon Quest character, maybe Slime, maybe Ederic, I don't know, and Chrono. So yeah, I mean, maybe some smaller ones. I don't think anybody asked about, like, Neku from The World Ends With You, but again, I doubt that would be who it is. And that's probably not someone he would say you will definitely be familiar with. So yeah, I'm thinking Chrono or a Dragon Quest character seems to be who Hitagi is implying. If, you know, who Hitagi heard even is the actual character, as Vergeben has been saying that he's heard 7 and that Square is super secretive about it. So who knows if it's actually known what the Square character is or not. So then off the topic of specific characters, Hitagi is asked, based on your opinion, do Spirit's characters still have a chance to be DLC? And Hitagi straight up just says no, which I understand. I'm someone who kind of thinks that Spirits could be characters, but there are only 5 spots. It does seem like those 5 spots were chosen at the same time that the game was being made, like as in they're already chosen. So I do think it's a little strange that if they were to make a character a Spirit in the game, they would also make them a DLC character if, you know, those were being decided upon at the same time. Now, as for Geno specifically, as a lot of people say, oh, well, Geno's a spirit. We actually don't know that. Geno's been shown as an icon or like a token, not a spirit. So it is possible he's a spirit. And again, I don't know for sure if spirits deconfirm characters or not. I just think it probably does, but not for sure. So I will hold out hope for Geno probably all the way through this. If we get a Square character, and unless Sakurai says that's the only Square character out of this DLC pack, I'll probably still be holding out hope for Geno if we don't get Geno as that Square character. So yeah, I mean, I got nothing to lose. I want him in the game, so I'll be holding out hope till the end. So then once again on the subject of Catalina, Hitagi says, I still haven't confirmed if they are real or not, and again, I didn't say Catalina is DLC, I said she might be DLC. Nothing is confirmed. So he's still unsure about that one, but he did say the negotiations were going good, so I'd say that leans more towards him saying yes than no, but he's not sure. So then someone asked Hitagi about a Namco Bandai rep in Smash, specifically Agumon, and Hitagi said, not Agumon, but I will not reveal who it is. Sort of implying that there is a Bandai Namco rep happening in Smash for the DLC, or at least Hitagi thinks that. I don't know for sure. It's kind of an awkwardly stated response, but it does seem to imply that there is a Namco rep as one of these 5. So that's pretty much all the Hitagi stuff that's been happening. It's a little confusing. Hitagi talked a lot, and some things sort of, I don't know, they're just a little messy here. It's not a very clear picture of what Hitagi is saying for sure. It seems like they're saying a Square Enix rep that might be like Dragon Quest is what they've heard, but the only thing that really survived that's big enough seems to be Chrono Trigger. They said that there is probably Catalina, or at least they said the negotiations were going good, but they aren't sure of that. They said for sure Steve from Minecraft is going to be the Microsoft one. They seem to imply there would be another Western character of some kind, and then they seem to imply there's going to be a Namco character of some kind. So yeah, those seem to be the 5 that Hitagi is talking about, but you know, I don't know if anybody could for sure know those 5 characters, and some of the things that Hitagi says they seem to know for sure about, like negotiations and stuff, again, I think is a little suspicious, but hey, who knows? I do think Hitagi probably does have some real info here, so I'm not like totally discrediting them because they got too specific about something. I just think I'm trusting a bit more in Vergeben saying, heard 7 Square Enix characters, not sure which ones, and Minecraft content in some way, but unsure exactly how. That sort of stuff feels more definite to me, like that's like a definite leak that's probably going to happen, whereas Hitagi's stuff is kind of starting to get a little too specific for me to be totally confident in it, but I'm still definitely watching it. So then something else interesting happened that sort of points to something I was just talking about. So Sakurai posted a tweet recently of this really cool commercial that we got. It was like the banner for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's just this really cool thing of like the banner coming to life and the characters kind of fighting. It's this awesome little commercial for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But Sakurai posted a link to one that actually plays the whole commercial backwards, which is just really strange. The only thing I could think of is that maybe this is some sort of hint towards like a time travel character, which again could potentially point to Chrono from Chrono Trigger. Now, Leaky Panda's whole thing about there being a rep at the Video Game Awards seemed to point towards a Dragon Quest character, and again, Hitagi was saying they seem to have heard a Dragon Quest character. But it is also possible it's some other Square Enix rep, and it could be Chrono from Chrono Trigger. Kind of a character I wasn't really thinking of, but it could get us, again, an Akira Toriyama design character, something that if a lot of votes for Goku happened, I could see Nintendo going out of their way to try and get. Obviously, Dragon Quest could do that as well, but Dragon Quest isn't super popular in the West. Chrono Trigger is kind of obscure, though, very much so the same way that like Mario RPG is old, outdated, obscure, whatever you want to call it. So I feel like if Nintendo was going to go to Square to get some old RPG from Super NES days, it's sort of obscure at this point for a character that they would go for Geno, as that's the big one everybody's been clamoring for Smash for so long. But it's possible they went and got Chrono. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. I do think Sakurai doing this tweet about the whole thing playing backwards is something. There's got to be some meaning to that. So I don't know if it's a hint at a character or something else entirely. Really not sure, but it's very interesting. So to end this video off, I just want to let everybody know that YouTube is now available on the Switch, so you can download YouTube and watch YouTube channels that you like PapaGenos, for instance, on your Switch, which I just think is really cool. It's just neat that, like, I don't know, I was doing all these videos for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and now right in the lead up to the game, I can actually watch my own videos on my Switch, which I'll also be playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on. I don't know, I just think that's really cool. So if you didn't know about that, yeah, go download YouTube for your Switch. It's pretty sweet. So once again, thank you guys for all the subscribes, all the likes. It really helps out the channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so, or like the video, or leave a comment, whatever you want. Until next time, have a good one.